America used to be considered a godly country. It doesn't seem to be that way to me now. And I don't mean to be disrespectful or anything, but it's so many things they're okaying for the wrong reasons. There's not godly reason. People need to really open up the Bible, the Bible, and look in it, and really get it into their heart. And this, the way Reverend Hood is doing this is a comfortable way. It's not forcing anything on people. It's a comfortable way and a loving way for it to continue to move in that direction.
The way Reverend Hood presents it, you can understand it, and it makes you want to delve into the Bible even more so that you can see more, because it seems like the program goes off too fast. We need the bread of life.
We really do.
These days, we need it more than ever. And Reverend Hood's ministry on TV is giving us our bread.
Welcome to Nicholas Hood III Ministries, a ministry of hope, spiritual inspiration, personal power guided by Christian love. May the power of God's Holy Spirit fall upon you as you sit back and enjoy today's program. I introduce you now to Pastor Nicholas Hood III.
Today I'm talking about jealousy. Jealousy on many different levels. The jealousy between lovers, the jealousy that can happen at work, the jealousy that happens and the byproduct of jealousy when you're not jealous of somebody, but you're caught in the crossfire. You know, you've got friends who are jealous of each other or angry because of jealousy, and then it spills over to you. And as is the case so often in life, if you look at the Bible, you can find a Bible verse that tells you what to think about in terms of whatever you're going through. Today, I'm thinking about King Saul. King Saul was the first king in Israel. David is the second king. But long before David becomes the second king of Israel, David is just the armor bearer for Saul. David is singing songs and playing songs for Saul to soothe his troubled spirit. He's minding his own business, but David has the fortune or misfortune, depending on how you look at it, to be the one who challenged Goliath, the 9-foot challenger. And when David kills Goliath, from that point on, things on one hand get better for him, but on the other hand, things get worse. And you know, life is like that sometimes. Your best moment is somebody else's worst moment. And sometimes somebody's worst moment is your best moment, depending on your attitude. But for David, what happens is Saul makes him the commander of the army because he's killed Goliath. And from that point on, David starts leading the Israelite army to victory. And as they go from victory to victory to victory, the women of the land begin to sing a song in 1 Samuel 18, verse 7, and it says, Saul has killed his thousands. But the second verse goes on to say, but David has killed his tens of thousands. And the Bible tells us in the next verse, it says, from that point on, Saul began to look at David differently. Saul looked at David differently. And from that point on, Saul becomes jealous. And you know, jealousy is a horrible thing. Saul is jealous because of the adulation of the women. He's still the king. He's the one who calls the shots. But Saul is uptight because a young man who's new on the scene has not only killed Goliath, but he's starting to win victories for Israel. And you know, life is like that. Very often in life, that's where jealousy begins. Jealousy begins with insecurity. When a person is insecure in themselves, you'll find that very often they take it out on somebody else. Somebody feels like they're not as smart as you. And then they look at you, as Saul says in 1 Samuel 18:7, they begin to look at you differently. Somebody may make a lot of money, but when they find that somebody else is perhaps more secure in themselves, when they look at you and say, well, why does that guy feel good about himself even though he doesn't make as much money as I do? Sometimes they will look at you differently. And I found that often in life, people really hold themselves back because they're looking over their shoulder all the time. And they're looking over their shoulder trying to see who's gaining on me, who do I have to worry about, who's my competition. And I found in my own life that rather than waste time being jealous about somebody else, that you and I would do far better if we just ran our own race, if we just lived our own lives. In my life, I found it fascinating. Every now and then I run into people who will tell me, they say, you know, my wife is always talking about and asking me about the women I dated when I was 17, 18, 19, 21. And they've been married 50, 60 years. But somebody still wants to talk about who you loved when you were 17. And to me, that is a symbol of insecurity. I did a funeral not long ago, and I'll mention her name because the lady is dead now, for Pat Solomon, a great member of my church. But one of her childhood friends got up in the pulpit to make remarks during the funeral. And the friend said, you know, I really love Pat because she gave me some of the greatest advice I've ever received in life. And she said, what happened was I'd been married to a man for a number of years, and she said he was a good man. She said he's the best man I've ever found, and I had a happy marriage with him. But along the way, I learned, and he told me, that he had a child who was 13 years of age. And at the time I learned that the child was 13, that child was older than we were in our marriage. We were just married. And she said, I went to Pat crying, and I said, Pat, what should I do? Should I divorce him? And Pat said, no, don't divorce him. He's a good man. You love him. He just made a mistake. And she said, sometimes people make mistakes. And the point that I'm making is, and the lady went on to say, she said, I forget how many years she said, with this husband. But at some point in life, you and I have to find how to get beyond our jealousy. When I think back to King Saul being jealous of David, I think that Saul made some great mistakes. And one of those mistakes is Saul forgot that he was the king. And it didn't matter if David was killing more adversaries than Saul. All the credit ultimately goes to the king. A man, one of my father's associate ministers years ago, told my dad he didn't want to, help him with some of the little projects at the church. And my dad told me, he asked the guy, he said, why won't you help? He said, we're getting ready to move from an old church to a new church. We got to move boxes, and we got to take down the cross from the side of the building. How come you won't help us? And the guy said, why should I? He said, you get all the credit. And and he was being honest. I think he should have helped anyway. But very often in life, we look at life like that. We look at people like that. We look at people and ask ourselves in a cold, calculated fashion, why should I? And am I jealous of this other person? Do I decide intentionally that I'm not going to do something because I don't want somebody else to get the credit? And in the case of David with Saul, we find that David just kept pressing on. David refused to fight back at Saul, no matter how mean Saul was to him. Even when Saul tried to kill him, David refused to lash back. And David told his men, he warned his men, he said, do not lift up a hand against Saul, because Saul is the Lord's anointed. Now, where am I going with this? Where I'm going is, I hope that for this audience today, you out there looking at this program, I want you to think about your mental attitude towards the next person. And I want you to ask yourself, am I jealous? Am I seething with envy because of what somebody else has, of how somebody else looks? And I encourage you to take a look at the mirror and look at yourself. You are beautiful. You are more beautiful than you may give yourself credit. I'm a closet photographer. But one of the things, matter of fact, that's why I have a book of photographs and prayers. And I'm giving them out to people who contribute to this broadcast. But when you look at the photos in this book, what you'll find is that many of those photos are photos of people's faces, the facial expression. And what I've learned through the years is that there's something beautiful in everybody. Not everybody looks the same. Some are lighter, some are darker, some are chubbier, some are skinny, some are short, some are tall, but everybody looks good. And you don't see how good a person looks until the photographer can crop the photo. And the really exceptional photographers are the ones who are able to relax the subject long enough so that you and I can see how good they really look. You look better than you may think. And so I just want to leave you with this thought. God put you on earth for a reason. You are not here by accident. There's something God wants you to do. There's something beautiful in you. You may not think that you're beautiful. You may not think you are smart. You may not think that you're the best thing since sliced bread. But I tell you, God put you here for a reason. And God loves you. God is smiling right now at you. And you may say, but Nick Hood, I've made mistakes in my life. Yeah, you may have made some mistakes, but God will take you with your warts, with your imperfections. God will take you with your mistakes, but God will also take you with your excellence. You are better than you think. You are smarter than you might know. You have potential that is untapped. And at every stage of life, God has something better for you. I am doing this broadcast ministry at the last stage of my life. I should have done this 50 years ago. But I've been thinking about this for 50 years. And all I can say is, I just thank the Lord. I thank the Lord that the Lord has let me live long enough to live out this mission. And through this, what is this mission? I'm just trying to reach the lost. I'm trying to reach you. I'm trying to reach the person who has lost hope. I'm trying to reach the person who's lost faith. I'm trying to reach those who think that they've done their best and there's nothing more that they can do. And I am just trying to encourage you right now to see something good in yourself and to realize and stop looking at the other person. What you don't realize is that deep down inside, they're looking at you. And they're looking at you because you are smarter than you think. You are better than you think you are. You have something good in you. And I just encourage you to run your race. Fight your fight. Live the life that God has given to you. Hold on to your faith. And what you'll find is that the Lord will continue to bless you. The Lord will continue to renew you. The Lord will continue to give you opportunities that you couldn't even imagine, even yesterday. So just hold on in faith. And remember, I am praying for you.
There are people all across this globe who now will have the opportunity to know you like I do, because of course you are very forthcoming in telling stories about life, stories that are relatable, and that means something. How wonderful it is, and I just look forward to seeing how this platform, this new platform, will just rise and grow and really be a vessel through which you can be a blessing to folk all over this world. And Lord knows we need it.
This is a new ministry which is just starting. Reverend Hood needs your help in sharing the good news of Jesus Christ and his power throughout the world. If you would be so kind as to send a donation to Nicholas Hood III Ministries of any amount, Reverend Hood will send you a free complimentary copy of his book of original personal prayers and beautiful photographs entitled The Test, The Strength, The Endurance, and The Way Out. We appreciate your support, and in this way, you can partner with Reverend Hood in sharing the good news of Jesus throughout the world. Please make your check out to Nicholas Hood III Ministries and mail it to 4535 Chrysler Drive, Detroit, Michigan, 48201.
Today we're talking about jealousy, and I have with me again for the fourth week in a row, Dr. George Fleming. How are you doing, Dr. Fleming?
Came in on this one, I couldn't miss it.
All right. Today we're talking about jealousy. And Dr. Fleming, you heard me talk about the jealousy that King Saul, the first king of Israel, had for David, who eventually became the second king. What are your thoughts about the jealousy of Saul toward David?
Well, I think Saul's position was a little bit more, it was in the pathology of jealousy, which is envy. He envied what David had. The way that the crowd, the ladies in particular, loved David. He did not want, so to speak, David to succeed because he felt, and in my opinion, that it was a threat to his kingdom.
Exactly. That
people would follow at any point in time David against him. And also that did not give him the latitude of freedom to do people any kind of way because there's a contender waiting in the wings, so to speak. So he envied the greatness of David, but he was also jealous protecting his kingdom, that David would consume all of that and think like he does and move into the situation.
Have you ever had to deal with jealousy?
Yes. Being a black professional in a profession where there isn't many of us at the highest level of professionalism in psychology, I'm gone as far as I can go. Double board certified with a postdoc in neuropsychology. You can't get enough anyway. And my counterparts are, since I have an enormous amount of power in what I do, in my opinion, when it's rendered. I work for primarily in greatest history from 1990 up until 2021 was in probate court, where decisions are made on the finances and the freedoms of individuals who have mental disorders or aging issues in which their children challenge, oh, she done lost her mind. Let me run her life and get her checked and this, that, and the other, and I'll take care of her. Happens where family members challenge each other or can. And the system challenges people regarding their competency to do various things. They don't pay for those kind of exams. So I would do an exam where my counter or folks would do like 2 pages. And I would turn in 6 to 8 pages on a report on an individual. I would go to the clinic where they worked. If someone's trying to take your life away, freedom to sign your name and to do things in the fullness of America, and put you in a position where somebody else can decide whether or not you can buy that jacket, Reverend Hood, because they don't like you spending that much money. You don't go nowhere. You don't need no jacket. But it's your money coming in from working at GM, and you're getting Social Security. So you got maybe $60,000 of money coming in, and you can't touch it unless that person says so. That's the power of probate court. Now, I would do a lot of work And the judges, when I first entered, saw the product that I produced. And they got to me and came to me, not the judges, but my competitors who were competing for the pristine position of independent practitioner in probate court, which means judges call me and put me in court orders to do work and go into institutions to determine, has this person stayed there long enough? They committed this crime and they've been taking their medicine, they've been good for 3 years. Can they get a step down to a lower security place instead of being in prison with other murderers who are beating the shit out of them, beating them up on a regular basis or hurting them or sexually assaulting them? Can they get out of that place and come to a better place? I do exams that can contribute to that decision. The judge makes the decision, but I do the clinical background to give the judge, when this person's standing up there saying, Your Honor, I took my medicine, I've been doing good, and the doctors say, I don't know. They don't know whether this person can do well at a lower. I go in and say, yes, they can.
So how do you deal with that? How do you deal with when you feel like somebody's being jealous towards you?
I confronted them and told them, these are my people. This is predominantly black folks in Wayne County and poor white folks, which I am a child of. Yeah, I'm doing very well now in life. I live the good life. But I work at a food program and hand out food every Sunday to a group of people.
At the Plymouth United Church of Christ, located in the heart of Detroit, the very tip top, the medical center area of Detroit.
I catch my pastor's show at 8:30 for the early video that he has of the service, and then get dressed and go serve that. This has been things I've done. While I was in graduate school at Michigan State, I had a breakfast program in Lansing that I organized in the whole campus and got students to go down and feed children in the morning. Because these are programs I benefited from coming into this life that I have that God has given me. So I contribute back to it. I told them when they confronted me about it, I said, these are my people, I am of these people, I'm gonna keep doing this. You can't do it, get out of my way. You don't wanna do this kind of product, this is what we're trained to do and what's in these exams. But because of our license, we can write something on a piece of paper and it is legal.
So Dr. Fleming, we only have about 3 minutes left, but looking backwards towards the attitude that King Saul had toward David, from hindsight, they say hindsight is always 20/20.
Always.
What do you think we could, if you could offer King Saul some advice, what advice would you have given him?
And this is hard because he was anointed by God for that position. I mean, he had turned his back, so to speak, on God and started doing the evil things of his spirit, negative parts of his by spirit, I don't mean spirit from God, but I mean basically his emotions and insecurities, as you pointed out earlier, to hurt David. I would tell him, watch out, God gonna get you, because you're going against what you were given.
So what about for the person who's looking at the program today? Maybe there's somebody looking at this program right now who is either themselves jealous of somebody else, or better yet, we only got a minute or so left. What are good ways to deal with a relationship when you're not the jealous person and you're not the person who the jealous person is really targeting? You're just an innocent bystander. Your parents are jealous of each other, but you're the child. Or you've got two friends who you like, but one of them is jealous of the other. How do we keep our sanity?
Difficult. On that child thing, your children are trapped in the situation they're in. Hopefully a relative will see and speak to the parents about the care of that particular child. But to adults, I say, know the love that you deserved. Know yourself. If you are doing good, know that if you stay, people are very unlikely to change. Change is the hardest thing for an individual to just jump up and do, because it requires them to reorganize their lives And the only reason or the time it usually happens is when people fall from grace hard. Then they have to realize they got to do something different to get back to a good life or a good condition. But know the love that you deserve and insist on it. And if you're ignored, leave it.
Doc Fleming, those are great words for us to wrap up on. I really appreciate you. You've been with me for the last 4 weeks, and I've learned so much from you. I told you the other day, the reason why I invited you to come to this show is you're also a trustee at the church. And I was so impressed with some of the things I've heard you say just as a trustee to other trustees. As the church thinks through issues that we go through. And I really, really have the just most immense respect for you. And I thank you so much for being here. I hope in the future you'll come back.
I will. I'll do that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for inviting me.
All right. Thank you. Friends, thanks so much for being with us. I hope you've enjoyed the show today. Tell a friend that you enjoy it. Plan on watching us next week, Saturday at 2:30 p.m. And I want you to know, I really am praying for you. God bless you and God keep you.
This is a new ministry which is just starting. Reverend Hood needs your help in sharing the good news of Jesus Christ and His power throughout the world. If you would be so kind as to send a donation to Nicholas Hood III Ministries of any amount, Reverend Hood will send you a free complimentary copy of his book of original personal prayers and beautiful photographs entitled The Test, The Strength, The Endurance, and The Way Out. We appreciate your support, and in this way, you can partner with Reverend Hood in sharing the good news of Jesus throughout the world. Please make your check out to Nicholas Hood III Ministries and mail it to 4535 Chrysler Drive, Detroit, Michigan, 482. Thank you for watching today's program. We hope you've been blessed in a powerful way. Just knowing you took the time to watch today's broadcast is a great encouragement to Pastor Nick Hood. If this broadcast has been a blessing to you, we ask that you mail a tax-free donation to Nicholas Hood Ministries at 4535 Chrysler Drive, Detroit, Michigan, 48201.